October 7th, we went through a second Holocaust. You see, the Holocaust survivors, many lived in the kibbutzim, and they're saying, I went through both Holocausts. I can tell you that this is a Holocaust. And you see those Holocaust survivors, and you can't believe their strength. The amazing thing about the fund that it's been established for 21 years. And up until October 7th, we have taken care of 9,000 victims of terror. Following October 7th alone, from one day alone, we will have at least 9,000 victims of terror that the fund will be taking care of on a very personal basis. This is something very important for us, to maintain a very personal contact. The women, the amazing women in the fund, with Yael's guidance and inspiration, are working very, very closely with the families to understand what their needs and what their future needs are going to look like. So for the first 6 weeks, we were totally dedicated at one thing, at providing emergency grants. So what we're trying to do is provide now, following the now it's already 8,000 emergency grants. Now we're going to the second phase, and for the coming 2 months, we're going to provide 2,500 families with the additional rehabilitation support. At the same time, we're working very hard on our children's camps, which is an incredible thing. We have had, in the Fund of Victims of Terror, over the years, we have had a group of 250 children from the ages of 6 to 16. Now we're going to have 700 children who are directly affected by the atrocities of October 7th. For these children, we have dedicated camps throughout the year, 21 days, specifically organized and designed for children with PTSD. The counselors in these camps really have to be very strong mentally, because these children, when they throw a tantrum, it's not just because, they've gone through something, and you need someone who knows how to give them a hug. So we already had some of the children for Hanukkah, for lighting of candles. We've had the teenagers for a refreshing day in the center of Israel. And on Friday, we had something which is amazing. We have new 60 Bedouin kids. The fund is supporting people regardless of religion, orientation, personal preferences, anything. It's really, that's the amazing thing about the fund. We have supported families of tourists who were hurt by a terror attack just this year. Yael took part in funerals for Indian workers in the past. Thailand, India, Tanzania. We follow up on them. She's still in contact with these families. She has a very, very big heart. Also, as I mentioned, tourists, but also Palestinians. And I think the very, very important thing to know, Yael has 2 daughters, I have 3 children. We send our children today to school, and we are not teaching them to hate Arabs or Palestinians. Even following October 7th, we don't teach them to hate them. They are taught to love people for what they are. They hate terrorists, but they are taught not to hate people just for the mere fact that they have a different nationality, a different religion. That's not the way we teach our children. That's very, very different than what we see, unfortunately, in Hamas and also in other places in the world towards Jews. I think that's probably one of the most difficult things to come out of October 7th. I hold another position in the Ҷույи시에이전시의. I'm also the chairperson of JReady, which is the global network for preparedness for situations of emergency. It's a global Jewish network, even though people who are not Jewish are also welcome to join. So for us, we knew that we need to be prepared for the occurrence of anti-Semitic events. For the past 2 years, we're preparing our team. But even we did not expect it to come out the way it came out. I mean, it's very, very difficult to feel that in spite of what we went through on October 7th, I don't want to say the world is turning against us, but the world is standing idly by when we still have 134 hostages in Gaza, 19 of which are women, young women who are going through sexual abuse, and the report that is taken out by the UN Undersecretary does not mention Hamas as a terrorist organization. How can you explain that? Nothing other than sheer hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Sheer hypocrisy. And anti-Semitism, of course.
Yeah.
I followed up very, very closely on the actions of the Secretary of the UN. When I was a member of Knesset, I was a member of the Security and Foreign Relations Committee, so I'm very familiar. I'm not a security professional, but I know security quite well.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought that the UN was hypocritical when it came to Israel. In 2023, the UN Security Council has had resolutions against certain countries in the world. So Syria, 1, Russia, 1 or 2, Iran 1, Hamas 0, of course it's not a country, so Israel 14 resolutions against Israel in 2023, most of it following October 7th.
Yes.
I'm holding my head, I'm trying to,
Yeah, we
and
are
you don't
too.
understand.
We are
I
too.
imagine. We have many challenges to come.
Yes.
I think I was actually sharing this with Flora earlier, that we're speaking now about 9,000 victims of terror that we will need to address their issues, but it can easily be in the 12,000, 15,000, we just don't know yet.
Yes.
One of the main problems, especially when it comes to PTSD, is that you don't really know, and it can come out at any any moment that you don't even imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And contrary to what people say, that we're a traumatized nation, and I think this country is very, very strong. I think this is
Very
probably the most
resilient.
resilient
Yes.
people in the world. I don't think any other people in the world would be able to come out of October 7th when we have had to recruit 350,000
Yeah.
soldiers, evacuate 120,000 people, later to be 160,000 people from both south and north, being threatened by the south, obviously, by the north and Judea and Samaria. In a situation like that, I don't see any other country in the world looking like we are looking at the moment, with the economy still going. It's rough, and it's going to be a rough patch. We know. And this is probably, the war against terror is the longest war Israel has ever known. It's the nameless war.
Yes.
We are taking care of the nameless war. And it's very, very difficult. But we are resilient, and we will persevere, and we will pull through. I belong to a family who came here. I'm 10th generation, my children are 11th generation in Israel. My great-grandparents came in 1776.
Wow.
When you look at the generation that we have raised here, they are incredible. They know exactly what their task is. They know that they are the ones keeping, holding the fort. There's no, the fort is, is our country. We just want to live. We don't want to cope. We don't want to kill people. We don't want to kill people. That we just want to live. And this is very, very different than our enemies. Bibi Netanyahu did not go on war for many, many years, even though we had rockets flying over our heads, because basically Israelis mostly wanted to live. This is our main goal. And we were pushed to contain missiles flying over our heads. It was actually the governor of New York saying 2 or 3 weeks ago, she was saying, if Canada would shoot missiles over Buffalo, the next day there will be no Canada.
Right.
But
Exactly.
Israel was expected to contain.
Yes.
And in so many ways, we wanted to contain because, a very close friend of mine was assassinated on October 7th at 10 o'clock in the morning. His name was Ophir Lipstein. He was the mayor of Sha'ar HaNegev, one of the largest municipalities in the Gaza envelope. And he was assassinated trying to protect his kibbutz, Kfar Aza. Later on, his son was assassinated, his mother-in-law, Bilha, and his nephew, his wife's nephew, Neta Epstein. This is something you cannot perceive. And you know what Ophir was doing when he was mayor of Sha'ar HaNegev? Trying to help the people in Gaza to get more permits to work in Israel. Because this is what we do. You know that the people they assassinated were the people who would drive to the border twice a week, 3 times a week, to pick up the elderly, to pick up the babies who are sick, and bring them to hospitals in the center of Israel. That's what these people did, and these are the people that they murdered. I keep looking for righteous among the nations within the Gaza people. UNRWA, we know, is a terrorist organization. Again, had no expectations, but to learn that people were kept in doctors' houses, in hospitals, in teachers' houses, and no one righteous among the nations, one, to help any of the hostages. How can it be?
Yeah.
And Israel is expected now to continue passing humanitarian aid. Now, as a Jew, my heart always goes out to the people in need. But the people in Gaza also need to understand that you can choose. So we know that we are facing challenges of enormous scale when it comes to Israel and when it comes to our supporters in the world. We see anti-Semitism raising its ugly head. You need to see how you deal with that. So the challenges are enormous. But it is my strong belief that somehow we will prevail. It might be a very long war. It might be internally very, very rough. But eventually, we came out of the Holocaust. I keep reminding myself we came out of the Holocaust. On October 7th, we went through a second Holocaust. You see, the Holocaust survivors, many lived in the kibbutzim. And they're saying, I went through both Holocausts. I can tell you that this is a Holocaust. And you see those Holocaust survivors, and you can't believe their strength. You can't believe their strength. You see families that were completely erased on the face of the earth and the world. Just the way he was standing idly by when the Nazis were pouring the Jews into gas chambers like they were cockroaches. Standing idly by now. So difficult, so difficult. You know, I haven't said good morning once since October 7th.
Yeah, many people don't
I
say
don't say good morning.
and not say good evening.
I don't.
Even on television.
I don't say have a good week, which was ever since I was a very young girl. My father taught me how to say have a good week. When Shabbat and Shavua Tov, I don't say Shavua Tov. I only say, may this week bring good news. Good news. This is my hope. I was born here. My parents were born here. Most of my grandparents were born here. Some of my great-grandparents were born here. I really have no intention of raising my children anywhere else. And I really have no intention, God's willing, it's going to take a long time. I have no intention of being buried anywhere else. This is my country. This is my country.